Hey, this is Meleika of Evanston Live TV, the voice of the people. Some of you are already familiar with the story of the young black woman that works at the Evanston Public Library by the name of Lesley Williams. But I definitely want to get the story out to those of you who are not familiar with her story. I believe we all should know what's happening with Lesley Williams. She has worked for the Evanston Public Library for over 21 years, and she's been suspended from her place of employment, and many believe that it's racially motivated, that there's definitely an injustice taking place here. And she had a hearing last week at the Civic Center, and there was a rally led by Pastor Michael Nabors of Second Baptist Church, and he's also president of the NAACP Evanston. So she's getting a lot of support here in Evanston because of her work. She's done amazing work, and you'll hear more about her in the interview. So here's part one of that interview, and part two will be with Pastor Michael Nabors of Second Baptist Church on how to handle racism in Evanston. Well, actually nationwide. So check this out.
Hi, Meleika. I'm Lesley Williams, Head of Adult Services for the Evanston Public Library.
How long have you worked at the Evanston Library?
21 years.
21 years.
Yes.
Wow. And now all of a sudden you're a problem.
Now, well, it just seems to be since the last 3 years that I've been a problem, apparently. I was not seen as such a threatening presence under previous direction.
I found it very difficult here in Evanston when I see injustice, when I see racism. It's so hidden, and they're able to really hide behind being nice to you, you know? But then they hit you with it. And so it just makes it very, very difficult to call it out.
I think it's important to remember that racism in the 21st century doesn't necessarily hide behind a white sheet and a burning cross.
Exactly.
And there are often people who, on a personal level, would not consider themselves racist, may not have actual prejudice towards African Americans. But people get very comfortable with the way things are, and people get very comfortable with the way resources have been allocated and with the way the system works. And when someone points out that this system, even though maybe that was not your intention, that this system is actually discriminating against low-income people or people of color, they often get very defensive and they don't want to hear about it. And then you get accused of contributing to an unhealthy work environment because you're the person pointing that out. The current charges really just seem like kind of a hodgepodge of excuses for getting back at me, and there's clearly, in my mind, a feeling that my director wants to get rid of me because of past incidents, but I think also because I continue to call out what I see as structural, institutional racism, not just in the library, but in the city as a whole. I talked about our collection policies and how so many people have told me that they don't find enough books on the shelves, particularly children's books that are by or about African Americans and Latinos. I've talked about our DVD collection policies. I've talked about the dearth of African American and Latino employees in the library. I've been removed from the strategic planning committee. I was not made part of the restructuring committee, something that you would usually think the head of adult services would be part of. And just in general, I feel that I've been marginalized and that a lot of my contributions, such as bringing the Goodman Theater to the library to perform August Wilson's piano lesson, have really been kind of underreported and ignored by the library administration. And I really think that's unfortunate. And I'm hoping that this incident will be a real call to action for the Evanston community to look at what it truly means to have an inclusive and diverse community, and how our city funds being used across the city, not just in the library, but in all departments. Are we really funding the needs of those most in need in the way that we should be? Are the library locations and collections really reflecting the needs of the people in the community? I think those are absolutely crucial issues for Evanston, and I'm hoping more and more people will start to ask about that. And I'm also hoping that in the same way that District 65 has hired an equity consultant, Corey Wallace, who actually attends this church, and is working on an equity audit I hope that the library would consider doing the same thing. We have an equity statement, but simply saying that you support equity is pretty meaningless if you don't actually have goals and objectives and a timeline for implementing equity. If you're not strategically looking at who is checking out books and who isn't, what neighborhoods and what wards are using the library and which ones are not. When you go into the library on a given day, how many books are you going to see on the shelf? How many movies are you going to see on the shelf that reflect the African American experience? Those are things that could be looked at in an audit, and I think should be looked at in an audit.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Lesley. I don't want to keep you.
Thank you so much, Meleika, for talking to me.
Thank you for your time.
Stay tuned for part 2 with Pastor Michael Nabors of Second Baptist Church.